Coming home and heed the master's call. I've heard them sing the modern songs and songs of long ago. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound. Oh, how sweet is the sound. No sweeter song, sweeter song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. It was the song my mother sang in sweet and humble voice. Like music from the world above, it made my soul rejoice. Its soothing words and melodies like the rippling waters flow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound. Oh, how sweet is the sound. Sweeter song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. Amazing grace, so sweet the sound. Oh, how sweet is the sound. Sweeter song in this life could be found. Heard about the Savior's blood, washed as white as snow. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. But amazing grace, so sweet the sound is the sweetest song I know. The sweetest, most wonderful song I know.
Well, welcome. Yes, it is I. We've been gone for a while. It seemed like an eternity. 2 consecutive weeks we have not been on air. We have not been live on our programs, and we want to apologize. But we will roll. It's going to be a good evening. It's going to be a good night. Call your friends, your family. Get your husband, your wife. Call your enemy. If you have a couple of them, call them over. We're going to have a good time tonight. So we're going to begin. We're going to begin with a word of prayer. Sister Jeffrey, I use something else, Sister Jeffrey. Sister Jeffrey.
Hello, how may I be of assistance?
Can you pray for us tonight, please? Thank you.
A pleasant good evening to everyone, a pleasant Sabbath. Shall we pray? Loving Father, it's indeed a wonderful privilege, dear Lord, to be in your presence on this another Sabbath Eve, dear Lord, and we pray that as we travel through the journey of this program, that you will continue to be with us. You will continue to guide our thoughts. Bless us, Lord, with wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And at the end of this program, Father, may we either have been reminded or have gained some knowledge on a topic, Father, that we don't often discuss. We love you and we praise you, and we want to thank you for each and every one who's watching, no matter where they may be. I trust, dear Lord, that they would have had a good day, and that they would continue to, we would all rather continue to bask in the sunshine of your love and of your care this evening. Is our prayer in Jesus' name, thanksgiving.
Amen. Wonderful. So thank you again. Yeah, we had some situations at the office here at the station that caused us to not be on 2 consecutive weeks. Sunday was supposed to be our little hang, and we have to change the date on that. We have not yet confirmed another date, but we will do that. We will do that. A number of you were planning to come and have contacted us, but we wanted to streamline it some more, and we really wanted to make it a little more organized. And because we were not on air and we didn't get sufficient feedback, we have to move the date. We already I want to say contract. We had the arrangement for the venue, and we had everything arranged, and we want to say that we're very sorry that we could not have done that because of the time that we were away. All right? I want to say too that since last we met, I lost a very good friend. We lost a very good friend, Sister Carla Lunk. She passed yesterday morning to breast cancer. We were really hoping for the best. And yeah, she passed, and that was a very hard blow for me. Very good friend for many years, and we lost her yesterday. Also, since last we met, I celebrated a birthday. March 20th, a very special day in the year, the vernal equinox. Tell them, Sister J, you just
No, I'm just smiling at you, all the emphasis you put,
yes,
the emphasis.
Emphasis. I'm
Yeah,
the
the
most,
emphasis
I'm the
you
most
put
happy, I'm the
on this
most
day, March the
fortunate of men.
20th.
March the 20th, the first day of spring.
Yes, go ahead.
Yes,
go
that's
ahead.
the. Well, don't let me say it all. Don't let me say it all. All right, Dominique, I want to be able to see the people who are talking on this computer. So if you can help me to do that, I'll appreciate it so much, so that I can see what they're saying, because the other camera is a little distant away. All right, so what we're going to do, we were talking how to become a better you. We started it the last time, which seemed like an eternity away, how to become a better you, and we want to continue with that tonight. And so because we were disjointed, we want to kind of go back and come forward, if you don't mind, and becoming a better you as we speak to relationships. Becoming a better you as we speak to your relationship in your marriage and your premarital engagements and so on. Some people might want to say, well, Jeffrey, you know, I'm too old. You're not too old. You're not too old to change. You're not too old to change. Is that right, Sister Jeffrey?
That's correct. I often think of people who say they can't change as putting an impossibility before them. However, we have to think about it in the light that God says with him, all things are possible. And the only time that you can't do something differently is after you have passed away. So as long as you are alive, you can change. You can move from one stage to the next stage. So people can change rather, and we can change at any age as long as we are willing to change.
So you can change. All right, good. And we have Brenda, we have Candida. Where's Candida? Candida's where? Atlanta?
No, not Atlanta. Somewhere in Georgia. One of those nice boony.
Candida, welcome.
Boony
And
little
Brenda,
cities.
welcome. All right. So we're talking how to become a better you, and we're talking about it in the sense of relationships, or understanding your emotional intelligence. We're dealing with that particularly, understanding your emotional intelligence. How to deal with your emotion, understanding who you are. When we talk about emotional intelligence, your emotions, right? How you feel, how you define emotions. Emotions, you know, your inner feelings.
I guess how you can we say feel? I was thinking, can you say feel? Emotions have to do with angry, calm, being
right. So that those would be feelings, right? Those are internal feelings that are governed by a number of things. Your emotions are governed both by external and internal happenings.
Exactly.
And so that's your emotion. So when we talk about emotional, then we talk about intelligence. So we're talking about emotional intelligence. And what is intelligence? You look at me as though I'm not intelligent. I'm very intelligent. Emotional intelligence. right? So intelligence has to do with knowledge. Intelligence has to do with your ability to
and
know,
understanding.
okay, and to know at a different level. If somebody tell you you're intelligent, it's because you are not normal, or if they tell you that that answer was an intelligent answer, it suggests that you are not normal, that answer was above normal. So when we talk about emotional intelligence, we're talking about how best you can understand your emotion. Okay? How best you can understand emotion, or understanding your emotion in an intelligent way. And a lot of people do not seek to understand their emotions in an intelligent way.
It might be that because we don't know how to do that.
Good. And so that is why we are on your program, on your TV. That's why we are on your Facebook, because we want to help you to be intelligent with how you deal with your emotions. If you're not intelligent, or if you were dealing with a particular situation and they told you that you were dumb, or they told you that that was not very intelligent, you can be accused of that. So there are some people who are emotionally dunce.
Yeah, we talked about that the last time.
Yeah.
And sometimes it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a deliberate thing. It's just that, you don't know exactly how you are supposed to deal with this thing. I've heard people say that, I don't know how to deal with this.
Good. So,
I don't know.
Right. So let's Pleasant Sabbath, Leon. Brother Softly. Actually, Brother Softly, I think it's your feed that I'm using here for this thing. So thank you.
I told you happy belated birthday as well.
Oh, yes. Thank you, buddy. Thank you so much. Now, if somebody tells you, if you want to do, if you wrote English at CXC and you didn't get a good grade, it means that in English, it's possible that you're not intelligent. So what do you do when you didn't get a good grade in a subject? What do you do when you're not good at a subject?
Well, one of the things you try to do is you try to find out what it is you don't know well about the subject, because it might not be the whole subject, just parts of the subject. And then you seek to find ways to help you, whether it's grammar, whether it's spelling, whether it's your comprehension.
If you can't cook, what do you do?
How we reach the cook?
Not just asking.
I thought we were talking about CXC English.
No, we're talking about how do you become intelligent in a subject, and cooking is a subject.
Well, here you go on Facebook and you go on the food channel, one of those food things, you just type in food, and you just watch what people are doing, and you try them out. You try them out and you get people to taste.
Nice.
You use people to taste test. So my thing is with the English, you if reading is going to help, then you do a lot of reading.
Okay.
You understand?
So
whatever it is to help you to become better at whatever it is you currently do not know how to do now, you work with that.
So you spend some time seeking to improve.
Yep.
Good. So if you have if your emotions are lousy, if your emotions, you get angry quick, you cry all the time, you lash out at people, you are always depressed, your emotions are not intelligent, then what do you do to improve the intelligence of your emotions?
Okay. One of the things I should have said when I was talking about the first thing I think you need to do is acknowledge that you are not where you are supposed to be.
So acknowledge that you're emotionally
dunce.
Illiterate or dunce.
Dunce, as we once said it.
Okay. So emotionally.
Right now, I'm unable to control my emotion so that I can fly off the handle at a snap. That's the first thing. Then, as I said before, then we have to find ways now. If it means going to a counselor, lying on the couch as it were, and speaking to someone who will help you to go through scenarios and ask you how to deal with those scenarios, then that's what you do. Whatever it is you may need to do.
So don't let's run too far away from what it is we're trying to get our audience to understand, which is we're talking about relationships. And we are saying that in your relationship, it is possible that you are not emotionally sound. that emotionally you are a wreck, emotionally you are dunce, emotionally you are illiterate. So what we're saying is that in order to improve your relationship, you have to improve your emotional intelligence. And that is going to take some work. So if you are...
Not only some, it's going to take a
lot of work. So we're going to take... Caller, hold a while. You on. Don't say anything yet. Let me finish this point. If you are sitting with your spouse or you're standing, you have your spouse with you. If the spouse is a phone call away, do a quick thing. Do a quick thing. Or if you want to wait until this program is finished, I want you to ask your spouse if they perceive that you are emotionally intelligent. So that's a little homework, okay? Be honest with your spouse. Ask your spouse. Say, spouse, honey, sweetheart, chunkupongs, smukets, am I emotionally intelligent? And you can do, the person might say yes, but you can narrow it down. So you say to them, on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 10 being the best, 1 being the worst, how emotionally intelligent am I? So do that. Right? If you want to do it now or you want to make a note of it and wait until after, it's fine. But you need to ask your spouse so that they could gauge your emotional intelligence. Do they think that you're too angry? Do they think that you're too impetuous? You know? Okay, good. So caller, good evening. How can I help?
Good evening, Pastor.
A pleasant good evening.
I just want to zoom in a little bit on something. I just joined you, actually, when you were talking about failing and not getting your good grades, and how do you actually make that happen? Well, you would know if you're listening to me, you know who I am. Everybody knows my story in relation to English, all right? I wrote English language 7 times in 7 years before I actually passed. And as I look back at that experience now, I say I never really failed English. I only didn't pass it yet.
That's a nice way of putting it.
Which means it's your commitment, right, to wanting this, whatever you need so badly, and staying at it until it happens. You actually fail when you give up. You actually fail when you stop. But once you still, regardless of whatever your weakness is, my weakness was writing and spelling and everything, okay? And when I actually passed English, I passed it with a B grade. Okay. But it was the staying power. It's wanting it so badly. There's nothing that you can want very badly and don't get it. You have to have one.
Okay, good. So what we're talking about, and the reason that Celia and I were making that connection is because we're talking about intelligence with your emotion, and we're saying that if a person is emotionally dunce or emotionally illiterate, you get angry too quickly, you always impetuous, you always depressed, you know, and you have an emotional insufficiency, then it behoves you to do what you did with English. You kept going and hoping, because you strategized and hoped that the next time you'll do better. So that if you are emotionally illiterate or emotionally dunce, then it behoves you to work on your emotion so that you can be better emotionally. And we're talking in the context of romantic relationships, marital relationships. You see the connection?
Right, okay. Now you've made that connection and putting me in touch with where you've been. Emotional intelligence has 3 major contexts. Consciousness of self, consciousness of others, and consciousness of context.
Correct.
Those 3 elements give you your total emotional perspective on life.
Correct.
First is developing your own self-understanding. Who am I?
Okay, good. So we're gonna get into that because we're gonna roll it out. We just wanted to set we just wanted to set a foundation, but we're gonna get into those specifics as we roll along.
But one thing, in terms of your emotions, you have to know you, and then know what you are doing, how it's affecting somebody else.
Correct.
Am I not putting up, doing my very best?
Right. So we're gonna do with the intrapersonal and the interpersonal, and we're gonna deal with those kind of things. So we just setting the foundation.
Yep. We got a long
All
way
right.
to go.
So thank you so much, my
you,
dear.
Thank you.
I think she's gone.
Yeah.
All right, good. So as we move forward, understanding that if we were talking about the homework, right? So ask your spouse, am I emotionally intelligent? On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst, 1 being the best. I mean, 1 being the best, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best. How emotionally intelligent am I? All right? So do that homework. Hi, good evening. Hello?
Good evening.
Oh, okay. All right. All right. So your emotional intelligence will address a number of things. It addresses your emotions. It addresses your personality, your social, your survival dimensions, and so on. Right. So you're looking at how you interact, not only with others, but how you interact with yourself. All right.
If I am I'm thinking about interacting with with oneself. A lot of times, folks tell me I like to talk to myself. I was telling a friend the other day, I talk to myself a lot because we never disagree. We don't disagree.
You don't disagree?
Yeah, we always agree with each other. And thinking of what it is we are discussing right now, I think a lot of times if I can say it like this, talk to ourselves. I think a lot of times a lot of things we say, a lot of the attitudes we have will be lessened because I'm able to, if I can say it like that, I'm able to.
But if you don't have a healthy self,
you're in trouble.
then talking to yourself might not be the best. might not be the best. Because talking to yourself is sharing information that you have with you. And that information might not be healthy. So a person might talk to themselves and say, you know something, I can slap you. And one of you says to the other, slap you for truth. You understand? So
you probably might need to have more than 2 selves. You might need to have more than 2 selves. You have 2 over here, 2 over here.
Yes. So you can talk to yourself if yourself is healthy.
Okay.
But if yourself is
It's
not healthy, then again we talk about improving, right?
Yeah.
And you need to know. And again, you gauge yourself. Ask others what they think of you. You know, the book that I wrote when I deal with ex-offenders and recovering addicts, in one of the chapters, I said that most people have the right opinion of you. Okay, most people have the right opinion of you. People don't like to hear that. But most people, yes, sometimes people are wrong and stuff and so on, but most time, if you're nice, most people think you're nice. If you're not nice, most people think that you are not nice. So most people have the right opinion of you, right? So we talk about emotional intelligence and the other word with emotional cogence, right? But
we rather emotional intelligence. You gotta go on Google cogent so let's stick with
emotional intelligence, right? How you deal with yourself, how you deal with others, how you interact with people. How do you cope with your immediate surroundings? And emotional intelligence is a big subject, and people use it in the workplace and in churches and in subgroups. It is used as a behavioral, for behavioral change and so on. However, I want to use the subject particularly as it relates to relationships, because sink or swim, the family is where it all begins. And many times when the family is broken down, it is where it ends. All right. So so when the subject of emotional intelligence best suits the family relationship, because if we can flush it out in the family, then we can bring it to the workplace, to the church, to the schools, and so on. What it is the candidate saying there?
She said, Candida said, this evening my son told me the things you refuse to deal with about yourself single really explode in marriage.
Candida, you sound as though he sound as though he's getting ready for marriage. Is he married? I don't think he's married.
I'm
What's
not
his name
sure.
again?
I'm not sure. Oh, I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah,
His name is there.
It's my
but-
boy, my boy. All right, Candida, he is right. If you don't deal with the things when you're single, it complicates it when you're in a relationship. And that is why I began by saying that you have to, you're not too old to change, because a number of the people who watch our program are married. Married folk, some folks are saying, look, Jeffrey, your wife and I, you really help us in our relationship. And the relationships are getting stronger as a result of what we're doing. However, what we're saying is that you're not too old to learn. You're not too old to change. So you might be hearing things now, you're already married, and that's why I'm saying ask your partner to give you an honest, objective assessment of how they perceive your emotional intelligence, your level. And a discussion can begin from that. You know, your husband thinks that you too whatever, you think your husband is too whatever, and the discussion can begin from there. All right? Psalmist David says what?
Talk to himself. What she was talking about, talking to himself.
Oh.
Beverly said that Psalmist David talked to himself and even answered.
Yeah, but the
And
psalmist,
even
David was a
answered
healthy
himself.
guy for the most part.
for the most part.
For the most part, he was a healthy guy. What we're saying is, Celia's right, and Celia talks to herself.
Very often. Very often. Don't be at your hair. One of the things I think I learned to talk to myself because it helps me to know what I'm going to do. Like it helps me to plan out my day. Helps me in how I'm going to deal with a situation. For instance, let's say, for instance, like I have to go to work tomorrow, but because it's Sabbath, a lot of things that I would normally do, I won't do. But let's say I was going to work on Sunday. I would talk to myself about what it is I plan to do as the day travels. So I say, okay, I know I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that, and and we have a conversation.
I'm not.
I understand
right,
that, but
right.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I'm just saying though that yourself is a well-trained self.
But it
Yourself
was my
is
but
a
my,
healthy
here,
self.
But here's what I'm saying. Myself was not always, quote unquote, a healthy self.
Okay, good. And how yourself became healthy?
Well, one of the things I had to do, I didn't go to psychiatrists and stuff like that. But one of the things I remember is I had, growing up as a teenager, I had a lot of older friends. Can I say it like that? Women who were older than I was.
And what did you do?
So let's say I listened to the things that they said. They would tell me things,
Okay.
tell me experiences of their life.
What else you did to improve yourself?
When I was in school, we had a program called ISCF, Inter-School Christian Fellowship.
Okay.
And I went to that every
All
opportunity
right,
I
good.
get.
What else you did to improve yourself?
Let me see. I read a lot.
Good.
I loved reading.
Good.
So a lot of
And you got
things-
married to me.
But even before I got married to you, I understood. I started to understand who I
Okay,
was.
so what we're saying then is that you can talk to yourself. However, you need to improve on the information that yourself has so that the conversations you have with yourself are better conversations.
Exactly, and
So that's
the
what we say.
conversation helps to improve you yourself.
Correct.
Okay,
All right.
good,
So, your emotional intelligence can be graded on a spectrum.
Okay.
And you can and that spectrum can go from emotionally nourishing, where you have a good relationship with your spouse and your children, and the spectrum can go all the way to where your interaction is emotionally toxic.
Wow.
So you can go from a nourishing relationship to a toxic relationship, and that relationship is anywhere on that spectrum. And the more you understand yourself, the more intelligent your emotion, the more emphasis you pay on improving the intelligence of your relationship, is the less likely that your relationship would be toxic. So if your relationship is now toxic, it moves along the continuum to a more nourishing relationship. And therefore, your interaction with your husband, your interaction with your wife, of course, it spills into your children and your friends and so on. But it now becomes a nourishing relationship. People want you to be around. They want your advice. They want to hear from you because you now nourish them. Your spouse feels better in your presence. Your spouse wants to talk to you more, wants to get your opinion on matters, even trivial matters, because you bring a refreshing emotional intelligence to the table.
As I think about it, I think of it as walking, wanting to go home. Your marital, your home is so much a home that you want to go home. You don't want to spend as much time out. The children don't just want to come and sit on their phone. They want to be able to come and talk about their day, because it's not going to be a hollering and a screaming. The wife can come and talk to the husband about her day. The husband can come and talk to the wife, so that when at the end of the day, the atmosphere of the house is such a calm one, such a loving one, because everybody, well, especially husband and wife, the emotional intelligence of each individual has changed. So it has moved from, if it was toxic, to now not being as toxic. And the children notice it.
Correct.
The children, I always, whenever I talk to friends who are having issues at home, one of the first things they would always say is the children notice when things.
You talk about talking to yourself, and Sister Beverly seem not to be able to get over talking. Seems as though Beverly talks to herself a lot. She's lighting up the thing there with the woman with the issue of blood said to herself. And it's okay, Sister Beverly, you can talk to yourself. It's fine. Brother Chan knows that half of the time is not him you're talking to. You're talking to yourself. You're talking to yourself. As it relates to emotional intelligence, 2/3 of the marriages that have been assessed, the persons say that problems come because of persons' emotions. All right? Emotions, how the person behaves emotionally is problematic, and 2/3 of the marriages are not where they should be because folks in those marriages are not emotionally healthy. They're not emotionally intelligent, and so work on improving your emotions. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say that even if you have a situation where both parties are dealing with the depression, the anger. I spoke to a friend one time, and she said, she says she enjoys when I can call her. Sometimes I get so busy I can't do it, and then sometimes the internet connection, I can't talk to her as much as I want. But one of the things I remember is that she would always say to me, I enjoy our conversations. And she would want to talk for as long as possible. And she eventually said to me, when I'm at home, she says, I can't have a conversation with my husband. She says, when I talk to him, it's as though he barks. Everything I say is almost as though it's better for me to be quiet, because everything I say upsets him. Everything I say, he gets angry about. So I said, what about the children, she said the same thing happens with the children. When the children talk to him, it's a barking, and it's always rough, you know, however he answers them. The thing is that it might not always be both parties. It might just be one. As I've said before, you still have to be willing to do whatever it is you need to do to understand yourself. Because one of the things I would always tell her is that since you understand that that is who your husband is, it may be that you talk less, you try to say less as much as possible. And so when you go around the house, yes, as you know, if you can sing, sing. If you can play music to help keep, whatever you can do, do it. Because it may be, as we're talking about, he needs to get help with understanding who he is.
I want to say too that sometimes when you hear one side of a story, and I'm
which is correct.
I'm very particular to not run with defining a relationship or accusing the absent partner because I've listened to one side of the story. You know, some people come to you with some good sounding stories. They sell themselves highly and they blame the other person. And they want you to make decisions based on their side of the story.
Yeah, which is
but
correct.
Time and experience have taught me that that is not the best, that's not always or at all the best thing. So you know, you probably need to have a conversation with that husband, because a conversation with that husband might tell you that it is hard that barks and he rebarks or barks back.
Well,
you see what I mean?
Hopefully I can get both of them, her
to
sing and him to sing, to find a way, you know, to find a neutral point. Y'all sing. Instead of trying to bark at each other, sing a song. Find a hymn,
right?
some praise
So that's
song.
number one. Number two, I want to say that if you have, let's say your emotional intelligence can be 100. Let's say that. We're talking just semantics here. And your emotional intelligence is at 50. But your spouse's emotional intelligence is at 10.
Okay.
When that person responds to you with 10, because yours is at 50, you might respond to them at a 50 when you really should be responding at 100 or 90.
Okay.
So because you are more emotionally intelligent than your spouse, does not mean that you are sufficiently emotionally intelligent.
Okay, correct.
Can I say that again?
I get you.
Can I say that again?
Yeah, say it again.
Because you are more emotionally intelligent than your spouse, it does not mean that you are sufficiently emotionally intelligent. So that sometimes what happens is your spouse comes at you, and you think that you are better than your spouse, but you're not the best. So you react to your spouse from a position of self-aggrandizement. Your ego kicks in, and you say to your spouse, you should, and you talk down to your spouse because you think that you're better than your spouse. However, if you were behaving at a higher level than you are at now, you would realize that response that you give to your spouse, because you have ascribed a lower emotional intelligence to your spouse, if you were higher up the pecking order emotionally, you would realize that is not the way to respond. What am I saying? I'm saying that sometimes the problem is not always the person who you think the problem is.
Correct.
The problem could well be you, who can behave better but have chosen not to behave better because you see more faults in the other person.
Or you figure you are right. And that's why I like the idea of singing a song. Even though, I've heard of instances where the singing aggravates the
Yeah,
person.
that's me, that's me. No, don't come on television here and talk about me in the fifth person. It's me you're talking about. And when you sing, and I know that don't laugh, I just say yes, man. Yeah, when you said that just now, when you said that the wife should sing, I cringe in my head and I say, oh no, please don't sing. Please don't sing. Men don't like when their wives sing. Men, you know, we can't take the singing. There's the singing.
What the singing
no, the singing.
Especially if you find an appropriate song.
No, there's no appropriate song. There's no. Man, listen, I heard Pastor Toby said this one time. He was preaching and he acknowledged it. Y'all just stay y'all singing. Don't be singing. And when y'all just choose this gospel song, and y'all just choose, excuse me a little bit, TV audience, I want to first. The wives, they choose gospel songs when they want to get at you, and they use the songs of the gospel to aggravate you. You shouldn't do that.
To aggravate, to intimidate you.
Yes, you shouldn't. Those things are not. Those things are not. Yeah. So yeah. So don't.
No singing.
Don't. Don't sing and don't hum. Oh God. Don't hum.
No humming either. No humming. But wouldn't that?
Don't hum. Oh my gosh.
Wouldn't that show emotional intelligence?
No,
on my part?
because what we want is we want to know what the problem is.
So you want, but
And
here,
when you all get to singing and you all get to, and we off our topic, yeah?
Yeah,
When
yeah.
you all get to singing and when you all get to humming, you all do not share with us the things that are really troubling you.
but it could be that you're singing to calm yourselves.
No, but the
calm down.
calming unnerves us.
Oh, the calming unnerves you. So
Put on some music.
just put on some
Yeah,
music.
put on-
Man,
put on
peace,
some
like
music.
some old hymns or something.
Yeah.
Okay, all
Yeah,
right.
put on
all
some
right.
music. All right, it's good. So, folks, emotional intelligence is a serious thing. Sister Jeffrey,
Excuse me.
can I ask you on a scale of 1 to 10, how have you perceived? I give you a time.
Go ahead.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how do you equate my emotional intelligence? 1 being the worst and 10 being the best. How do you equate my emotional intelligence?
I was thinking about it when you were asking the spouses to do it. And I was trying to see if I can get a definite number. I guess I would have to find a mean number because it's not every situation. Some situation, you get an 8. Some situations, you get a 9, some 10, sometimes a 5.
5. 5. Ooh.
I guess those are the days when I start singing. You know,
Oh, that's the 5
shall
days.
we gather at, you know, we start singing.
But if you were to sum me up though,
I guess I will say, let's say 8. I will give
overall
you
you
an
give me an 8.
I will give you an 8. I will give you an
You
8.
give me an
I will
8.
give you an 8.
All
The,
right.
the thing is that one of the things that we must say, I must say rather, is that we have grown a lot when it come. I mean, I didn't know that it was called emotional intelligence. Or was the other word? Emotional
Quotient.
quotient. You understand? However, as the process has been with us through our marriage, we have learned, and this is, and if you speak to couples who have been married for a long time to each other, you will find that everybody, you've had to find a way.
So we talk about marriage or my happy marriage?
I was
Because
talking
some
about-
people,
I
there
was
are some
talking
people who are
about
married
happy
long but they're not happy.
I was thinking about happy marriages.
Yeah,
I
but
was
just
thinking-
define because you're on
Happy
television.
Oh,
and
so
you're going live.
we just don't want to see people who marry. We
No,
want to say
because,
happy marriage.
yeah, because
People
what
who-
we're
okay,
doing is we want
okay,
people
okay.
to improve their
Okay,
relationship.
so we're talking about, let's say, if you, let me rephrase that. If we speak to persons who have been married long in happy marriages or happily in long marriages, a lot of times people would tell you that they've had to grow in the way they handle situations in their marriages, mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, and because of that, at this stage now, it's better. So basically, if you had met us probably 5 years into our marriage, we would not have been able to say the same things that we are saying now. If you want something to say.
Yeah, and that is why, you know, we have a lot of young people who follow us. A lot of young people, newly married persons are following us. We have people who want to get married who are following us. And oh, what a beautiful life they can have if they can begin their relationships.
Yeah.
Now that they are just into marriage a couple of years, 5 years, I mean, we've been doing this a long time. However, if you can get this understanding into your relationship early, imagine what kind of relationship you can have, how your relationship can be improved as you seek to understand yourself, as you seek to introspect, as you seek to understand that I need to spend time improving my emotions. I want to be emotionally intelligent. And if you can practice that at home, because, you know, I do that. I practice my intelligence at home with my wife and my children. And I practice restraint. Well, the children are gone now. You're talking over the years. I practice restraint. I practice not saying everything that my ego tells me to say. I talk to myself too, right? And sometimes I say, self, you can't say that. You say you don't disagree with yourself, but sometimes I have two of me and they dichotomy apart, right? And sometimes...
I guess I have to get another. There are just two of us. I think I have to get a third one on the right shoulder.
Don't do that. Yeah, and so I practice restraint. I think before I speak, so that I don't unduly infuriate. I don't unduly make people angry. And so if I could, I got my wife, and my wife is with me more times than more than any other person, and so I get a chance to practice my emotional intelligence on you. And so I tell you nice things. And when I want to tell you something bad, I don't say it, right? And so now that I practice on you, my lovely guinea pig, I now go into the community and I could now deal with the onslaught of people who I don't see as often. And if I can be nice to you, who I see a lot, and I could practice saying nice things to you, then when I go out there with my boss and my co-workers and with the people that easier. You know, it's easier, and they could throw a lot at me, and I could respond because I practice my emotional intelligence.
We're doing a thing at work. Unfortunately, because I don't work every day, I don't get to partake of it. When I go home, I'll show you the book. Sister Beverly started a thing that we do, a devotion, where we have a little book that we got around Christmas, and it's talking about deposits, where we deposit stuff. Don't let me say stuff. Don't let me say stuff. Stuff would not be the right word. But we are depositing. We're positive things. We're depositing positiveness into other people. And you know, as I was thinking about, as I'm thinking about what we're talking, and I'm thinking about what we do every morning, this is done. The book has some stuff that you should do. I'm telling myself that if I don't really understand who I am, if I don't have that emotional intelligence, I can't deposit positivity into anyone. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. And I know we're talking specifically about marriages and stuff like that, but I'm telling myself, if I don't understand who I am, if I don't love who I am, if I don't understand what makes me angry, what makes me happy, what makes me sad, then every day I leave the house to go out of the house, I would not have deposited loveliness on my children. I would not have deposited loveliness on my spouse. And then when I go out there, there are no deposits, no lovely deposits. I may be depositing, but nothing that is positive, no niceness, I'm trying to find a word. You know, and one of the things as I'm thinking about this topic is so important, because at home is where we first have to start to show out, to show out, to show out, to show out that I'm getting to where I need to be when it comes to, or I'm whoever I used to be, I'm no longer that person.
If you mean for the better?
Yes, for the better. You know, I'm thinking it in my head without saying it out loud. You know, I'm a miserable person. I'm ornery. I'm mean. I'm surly. And then all of a sudden, but not all of a sudden, but something happens to help me to realize, you know what? You need to fix this. Okay. So it's as though you get up next morning and you hug and you kiss and you love everybody and everybody watching it. What's wrong with her? You okay? You got fever? You know, everybody start watching because you're changing.
So let's do this here. We asked just now that you ask your spouse to grade you emotionally. All right? And if your spouse is not there, call or make a note, because you want to begin to improve your relationships. And like we said, relationships can always be improved. Yep. Relationships can always be improved, no matter how old they are, no matter how long you've been married. Your relationship can improve. So ask your spouse to grade you emotionally. Let them tell you how they view you emotionally, and then ask them. If your grade is not a good grade, my grade is an 8, so I got to find out what I can do to make it an overall 10. I get 10, you heard that, right? I get 10 in some areas, I get 5 in others, 7 and 9 and so on. So what I want to do is to find out how I can get up that 8 to a 9 or 10 and what it will take. And so that's what you will do for your homework, right? With your spouse, prayerfully, no fighting. Baby girl, you told me that I am emotionally intelligent overall at a 7 or a 6. What it is that I need to do to increase my emotional intelligence as it relates to you so that I can get a better grade. And then you have the reverse. And so he tells you what it is that you can do to increase your emotional intelligence. Because at the end of the day, this is what really matters. It is the family that matters. And it is the family's behaviors and attitudes and dispositions that go out there. And so what is happening in the workplace most times are reflections of what is happening at the home and what is happening in the church. Okay, the problems we have in the church, the backbiting, the gossiping, the fault finding, the tearing down, is what goes for practice at home. All right, children pitting against one another, the husband talking negative to the children about the wife, and vice versa, and so let's practice emotional intelligence in the home. When we come back next week, we're going to deal with the specifics. We're going to deal with the intrapersonal, dealing with you, inside of you, and then the interpersonal, we'll deal with that. We'll deal with some other aspects of understanding this concept of emotional intelligence. And I'm telling you, it works. Practice it. As you practice it, it gets easier. You get more, you become more professional at what you do. And if you can have a level of good emotional intelligence in your home, then people will admire you when you know, they admire your calm, they admire your tranquility, they admire how magnanimous you are as it relates to pressing issues. You don't fly off the handle. You deliver